How you doing, Wolfie? Hey, oh, such a good Wolfie. Hey, and welcome to the Ruby Tuesday, and this is my spoiler review talk, kind of my best moments of the film. So you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to hear spoilers, this is your warning. I'm very sad that this is the last X-Men film in this universe. When watching this film, one of the first things I thought when coming out of the film is this definitely needs more. These characters are very interesting to me. Some of the character moments lends you to thinking, oh, what if they did that? And there's this little sequence in memory when our character played by Anna Taylor-Joy is having an injection, and it causes her to have basically see what has happened before with this facility, and it links to the Logan film. It's the clip basically where you see mutants being treated, basically tortured, forced to do things with their powers, see what their powers can do. And so it links nicely to the Logan universe or the Wolverine universe. But the timeline is so messed up that it's hard to kind of place in your mind where it actually sits. But it was an attempt to really link it to. And there's also mentions of, don't you know who the X-Men is? Or Professor Xavier. There's a little kind of jokes sitting in the chair, pushing the wheelchair, talking about Xavier. This film has a big feeling of the house where the mutants go and get trained, Professor Xavier's school for mutants, and there's a feel of X-Men, the original trilogy. I feel like that's how it would have sat in that timeline. It feels like that's the way they wanted to go. And it's also like the idea that we only know some of the powers, they're just coming into them, but when we see them revealed, it looks really great. So you have the main protagonist whose power seems to be overpowered. There is a comic book series with this particular character, with the Demon Bear, and it does veer off. It's a different ending. It would have been, I think Professor Xavier would have been, if my memory serves, would have been much more in this film. I would have loved to have seen that if they had taken that, been involved with our protagonist having to deal with her Demon Bear. That would have been interesting. But I do like how they showed us that her powers are basically manifesting your fears. It's one of the strongest and weirdest powers you can get. But it also reminds me again of X-Men, where we have one of the sons, as Colonel Stryker, I believe his son had this power that was messing with everybody's mind. So it definitely lends into that part of the trilogy, which I think is nice, because that's it just felt natural to be in that universe. So it's its own film, but it also kind of sits nicely. I think that's a really interesting balancing act. There was also other bits that I was hoping to see. The end credit scene that is no more, that the director took out of the film, would have apparently linked to the X-Men universe of what was going to come next, and that feels like they had a story and a script ready to go for it. One of our main protagonists' power is the fire, I guess, and it looked like he could have become the Human Torch. The way they did fire, it looked like it hurt, or he was just screaming in fear, and then he gets pushed into the pool and the kind of steam rises off, and I thought that was really nicely done. I enjoyed that moment. It was when we started seeing their powers manifest. So you have the girl that the armor's up, and she has like magic and the ability to kind of teleport or visualize this place with her dragon. So at the end you have this massive sequence with the dragon and sword fighting. It's a proper hero moment. The Demon Bear. You have like flame on moments, and I just felt like that was a real superhero moment, and they were building up to that crescendo moment. But I would have liked to have seen more of their powers, and I feel like that we would have gotten that had there been another film or maybe another half an hour. It feels like very situational, like all of this is happening in one room, and that can work for a film that wants to be only a horror. But this film isn't only a horror. It's also a superhero film, clearly showing with the last 20-30 minutes of the film. And it's great. There's still scary moments within that horror. The Demon Bear is damn ferocious, and you do feel like, well, are they actually going to kill some of these characters off? I do wonder if there would have been more weight had they killed some of these characters off, because I feel like you would be like, oh damn, okay, there's consequences. So during that last 30 minutes, if a character had died, I think I probably would have been more invested. So it just depends on how closely they're wanting to carry over those characters. I'm guessing they were thinking that there was going to be more, and so they kept them alive. But I think if it was Joss Whedon, because he, one of the rules you live by is kill your darlings, because that's how you invest your audience. And so you make your audience love your characters, and then you kill one off or two off, and you're like, can't kill them all off, because you've got to, those films that kill them all off is just for spectacle and shock value. But if you have an emotional attachment, and you take one, and then the other characters have something to invest in, and I feel like that's kind of where they were going. Had they killed one of the protagonists, especially one of the females, I think, that relationship they were forming, which I liked. I think it felt natural. It was pretty quick, the way they suddenly really into each other, and I did feel like that she might be a figment of her imagination. She even talks about that. Joy Taylor, I think she was talking about, I feel like you're too good, you're too nice. And when you start getting the history of those characters revealed, so that you had the priest torturing the one, branding certain character, branding, you're being branded, she's a witch, burn her. When you get that, I felt like, is she just manifesting? I wonder how much of this is a manifestation of her powers, of her fear. If she brings out your deepest fear, that would be horrific. Mine would probably be clowns and spiders, or clowns that is a spider. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it, more than I expected. And I'm going to stick with my C+B- rating. I'm still very surprised that this film came out. And I'm also disappointed with the reviews that have really slated this film. I don't think it deserves it at all. It's a solid film. It's really enjoyed. It's really enjoyable. It's directed really well. The shots look great. The CG looks fantastic. There were some moments with the CG where I was like, yeah, that definitely looks CG. But for the most part, I really bought what was happening. It wasn't cheesy. It was just fun. And that's what surprised me. Sometimes the X-Men films can be really dark, really, really, really dark. They carry this tone of foreboding, and it forgets to enjoy itself a bit because you're an X-Men film, right? You can have a bit of the cheese in there, and I feel like there's a bit of a balance here. So you better have a bit of horror, some fun dialogue, the characters get to know each other, you enjoy their backstories, and then you have proper action hero stuff, which I think is an interesting way to go with this film, and I enjoyed it. Maybe because I was expecting it not to be that. Yeah, so chat to me in the comments below. Let me know what you thought. What was your favorite moment? What is your favorite X-Men film? And what are you looking forward to these characters maybe one day doing? Thanks so much for watching this review, spoiler review and chat. But most of all, until next time, remember, live long on Tuesday.